Many state and local policies in California stem from the state's incessant population growth. Chapter 12 frames the issues of water, housing, transportation, and the environment in terms of the growth that makes them policy problems in the first place. For decades, policymakers not only accommodated existing growth, but also built a California that would actually encourage future growth. A political division of labor made new development relatively painless. Local governments approved individual projects, while the state provided the infrastructure required. As growth continued, so did its negative effects. The result was reduced public support for the policies and taxes that had made growth possible. Political pressures in recent years have pitted Californian against Californian, farmers and city dwellers over water, new and old residents over housing, freeway drivers and mass transit advocates over traffic gridlock, and environmentalists and business over pollution. Many of these policies stem from basic assumptions deeply ingrained in California and national politics. That water is free, housing is a private sector activity, widespread car ownership is a given, and government is responsible to clean up private sector generated pollution. Numerous policy issues are rooted in population growth, housing, transportation, water, environmental pollution. The central question with growth is, how do California policymakers accommodate current and future growth without 1. Degrading various qualities of life sought by diverse groups, and 2. Endangering the state's once pristine environment. California has grown for a number of reasons. It has favorable climate and scenic environment. Railroads and the gold rush brought large numbers of people to the state. World War II saw increased federal spending and wartime employees. The state's post-war growth strategy also brought physical and social infrastructure to accommodate growth through factors such as a statewide water system, new highways, and a master plan for education. The result? California's population is now more than 38 million. While the state's population was 5.2% of the nation's in 1940, it is now 12%. Inland counties and small rural counties have experienced the highest population growth. Let's now talk about how growth decisions are made and who makes them. Cities and counties have planning departments to review land use proposals. Their tools include the general plan, zoning ordinances, subdivision regulations, uniform parking planning codes, and planned unit developments. For study purposes, please know that the general plan provides a blueprint for future development at a city or county. Definitions of the other tools are available in your text. Here is a concept to remember. Developers pay impact fees to mitigate the impact of new development, whether it's new roads, water systems, sewers, and even schools. Growth has slowed in California for a number of reasons. Many Californians believe their communities are growing too rapidly, that the negative consequences of growth include traffic congestion, high housing costs, urban sprawl, loss of open space, and pollution. Additionally, opposition to growth is centered around specific projects, typically involving what is known as locally undesirable land uses, such as landfills, drug abuse centers, also known as LULUs, and the not in my backyard syndrome. Let's now take a look at one of the most important issues related to growth: water. In fact, increasing water supply and moving it around is a prerequisite to California's growth. The reality is that Northern California has the water and Southern California wants it. You can see on the slide how water is stored in the state. Please also review in your text how water is moved and the major projects involved in that effort. Water policy is the subject of intense debate in the state. Many experts now believe that a multifaceted portfolio approach is the most cost-effective and politically feasible way to plan for California's water future. The approach includes urban water efficiencies, greater use of recycling, groundwater banking, and taking climate change into account. We will now move quickly through three other issues contained in this chapter: housing, transportation, and the environment. Here are the high points. Housing. California's housing efforts have centered around what's known as a filter-down policy that assumes that as upper rungs of the economic ladder move up to better homes, the ones they vacate will be made available to those on the lower rung. That only works if there is equilibrium of supply and demand, but that is an elusive concept in California. In particular, population growth keeps the demand for housing high, making it difficult to achieve balance between supply and demand. Transportation. Historically, California's transportation policy has favored and accommodated the automobile. Three factors help explain the complexity of the transportation problem in California. First, personal choice. Californians love their cars. Second, urban and suburban development sprawl has increased the need for those cars. And finally, California vehicles do more than create congestion. They have significant environmental impacts. Recent developments suggest some changes in California transportation policy. California voters have demonstrated some willingness to improve transportation infrastructure. A 1989 law allows Caltrans to build toll roads. And finally, and most controversially, the state is planning a high-speed rail system linking Los Angeles and San Francisco. Energy, environment, and climate change. California's population growth has severely affected the state's quality of life in two broad areas: energy and the environment. Energy policies address the oil, natural gas, and electricity demands of a complex, energy-hungry economy and the lifestyles of 38 million residents. Environmental policies address the impacts of economic and population growth on the quality of the state's water, air, land, and natural resources. For your study purposes, please know that a new approach to environmental pollution involves giving it a monetary value. For example, by determining a price or market value for nitrogen oxide, government can create incentives for companies to offset existing sources of smog when plants expand. Finally, to the extent that policymakers consider various so-called solutions to growth policy issues, they will need to include the following ideas. 1. Statewide growth strategy. 2. Rethinking home rule to give greater land use authority to regional entities. 3. Defiscalizing development, or seeking smart growth strategies that separate land use decisions from their revenue impacts. And finally, reducing population growth. Any growth efforts that ignore population growth will likely miss the mark in California. Please use this lecture, as well as other information in your course documents folder, to prepare for your weekly quiz. Good luck.